What up, everybody? Time to do another knife review. This one's very special to me. It's going to touch on or feature one of my favorite knives from my collection. Now, I don't have this crazy, super expensive collection. I can't afford to, just like a lot of people. I got a limited amount of disposable income to spend on knives. But I base my collection in what I call the sweet spot of the knife world, at least in production knives. And that's what we consider high-end production. And you're usually looking at a price range of, say, $150 to $300 in a production knife. Now, this covers a crap ton of knives from an equally large amount of manufacturers and name brands. And one of those name brands is Zero Tolerance. Now, Zero Tolerance is part of Kai Cutlery, along with Kershaw and Shun kitchen knives. And Zero Tolerance are basically a brand within that company that showcases higher end American made products. They are generally in the $200 price range. They can be a little more expensive, especially with some of the limited editions that they bring out. And there's been a couple of models that were slightly less expensive, around the $170 price range. But generally, you're going to find their knives in the $200 price range. And I think that is really a sweet spot for, regardless of whether it's an American made or Chinese made or Japanese made or German made knife. That is really a sweet spot with a lot to choose from, and generally you're going to find excellent to very excellent quality, fit and finish, blah blah blah. Now, the knife we're going to talk about is my favorite Zero Tolerance folder design, period. As far as I am concerned, my personal opinion, they do not make a better knife than this. They do not produce a better design. They do not produce a better made knife. And I'm not even including their limited edition knives, because let's face it, most people will never even be able to put their hands on one. They're limited numbers. They get snatched up instantly, and then they go almost instantly to the secondary market for 3, 4, 5 times what they cost, which is ridiculous. Okay? It's ridiculous. All right. The knife that I want to talk about is the 0452 CF. Now, this is a Sienkiewicz design. He's a Belarusian knife designer. He's very well known in the community. He's had many collaborative designs. Zero Tolerance has done a multitude of his designs, licensed designs, starting with the 0454, which was a limited edition, fanciness, composite blade, subframe lock, limited edition that you cannot get for probably less than $1,500 now, I would imagine. Then they did the 0450, which is a smaller version of this knife, and we've got the 0452, which is the full size, the same size that the 0454 was. Now, this is a Sienkiewicz design. It is based on his coordinal design that he did as a custom version. This is based on that. Now, let's go ahead and do some specs. This is a full-size knife, all right? It is a 4 1/8 inch blade length knife. Now, that's 10.5 centimeters just in your blade length. The blade stock thickness is 157 thousandths or 4 millimeters. The blade width is 1 inch or 25.5 millimeters. The handle length, 5 1/8 inches or 13 centimeters. Handle thickness is 510 thousandths or 12.95 millimeters. The handle width, 1.15 inches at the widest or 29.28 millimeters. The closed width, this is great about this knife, is just 1.16 inches or 29.5 millimeters. You can see that blade basically fully nests in that handle and does not add width to it when it's closed. The overall length, 9¼ inches or 23.5 centimeters, and the weight, a very lightweight 4.41 ounces or 125 grams. All right, now there are plenty of videos out there on this knife, the 0454 and the 0450, all three of the versions of this knife. Now, the 0454, the limited model, is the same size as this, but it's limited and hard to get a hold of and very expensive. The 0450 is in production, but to me, for me personally, it's too small. I do not really like to go below 3.5 inches of blade length in my personal carry knives. So this knife, the 452 carbon fiber, is just about perfect. And what I love about this knife is it gives you over 4 inches of blade length. All right, over 4 inches of blade length with a 5-inch or 5 1/8 inch handle. And look at this. This knife is so narrow. It's 1 inch and 160 thousandths, you know, 1 inch and 1/10 wide when it's closed. That's very narrow for that length of blade. It's hard to, right off the top of my head, think of any other knife that gives you 4 inches of blade length and that narrow of a design. It's such a high quality and acceptable price point, and you should be able to get this knife for $230, between $200 and $230 brand new. Just shop around. It's widely available, and it is a beautiful, beautiful piece of knife production knife work. All right, let's talk about the materials. Now, the blade in this example is in S35VN. That is a Crucible Particle Metallurgy steel, Crucible Steels, which is a U.S. company. It's a U.S. steel. It is a powder metallurgy type steel, and it is an improved version of S30V. Now, there was, slight improvements in the chemistry of this to improve machinability, improve wear resistance. It does not chip out as bad when hardened toward its upper hardness range. It tends to take finishes a little better than S30V, higher polish finishes. It's a joy to work with from what I understand. I have never ground it myself, but from all the makers that I know that work with it and all the companies that I've talked to that work with it, it's a joy to work with. All right. Now, the handle itself, the show side is a solid carbon fiber slab, and it does have no liners, and this is one of the reasons it is my favorite zero tolerance knife. Zero tolerance has a tendency to do steel liners under their carbon fiber or G10 show side. Neither one of those materials need steel liners. Neither one of them in any shape, form, or fashion need the support of a steel liner. That has been proven over and over and over, not only in Zero Tolerance's product line, but in other manufacturers' product lines too. I can't stand it. I can't stand the look of that steel liner underneath that show side scale. It's just a personal thing for me. So this is a solid carbon fiber show side scale, very high quality, very attractive. The machining is very well done on it. The back side, it is a titanium frame lock. All right, it does have a steel insert for the lock face, and the finish on it is a stone wash. Very well done, subdued, but very attractive. All right, it is not milled. That side is not milled to lighten it up, but that's not really a big deal. I mean, we're right at 4.4 ounces in a 4-inch knife, this, for the size, you would be amazed at how light that it is. You know, we're over 9 inches in total length, but at 4.4 ounces, there's really no reason to add the cost of extra machining on that titanium lock side to lighten it up. Because with the carbon fiber, it's already very, very light without any liner in it. All right, so as far as the build of this goes, this is pretty much standard zero tolerance flipper build. You're on the KVT bearing pivot here, and that's Kershaw's own bearing pivot system. Kershaw Velocity Technology, I believe, is what the KVT stands for. And in a frame lock, you know, pretty basic. This is, in my opinion, this is what zero tolerance does best. Bearing pivot flipper folders. And this knife is incredible, guys. This is the knife that I use to set the standard for every flipper that I pick up. It does not matter how much it costs, who makes it, where it's made, what it's made out of, blade steel, I don't care. It has to compare to this knife from my collection. This is hands down, overall, the best flipper knife I have ever held in my hands. And I've held a few of these, and they're all great. I just, whatever it was, zero tolerance just got it right with this model. The flipping action is crisp. The detent is solid and firm. It is on the upper end of detent strength. It is not so strong that it makes it hard to flip, but it is nearly impossible to fail the flipping action on this knife. A combination of the KVT pivot, which is very, very smooth, the stout detent, and a very good flipper tab design. Let's look at this flipper tab design that is oriented forward. So in that forward orientation, it is already more mechanically efficient of a design. You're going to be pulling back. It's got a forward orientation. You've got to overcome that orientation on top of the detent itself. And that is a very mechanically efficient design for a flipper. When that detent breaks, it breaks cleanly and that blade flies out. And for a over 4-inch blade, it is just so very satisfying, so very solid. When it hits that stop pin, it really smacks into that stop pin, guys. And as far as the action closing, it is butter smooth, guys. Oh my goodness, look at that. Yeah, that's butter smooth, and that's tightened up with absolutely no play in that pivot at all. You can see the centering is absolutely spot on. Let's go ahead and take a look at our lockup. The lockup on mine is probably about 30%. It has been since it was new, and it has never moved. Now, that said, I don't hard use my folders at all. Never. I typically, wherever I go, I also have a small fixed blade on me. So I'm not out there beating on this thing, and I don't know how it would react to hard use. It is a very long design, you know, two pieces that are connected by a single piece of hardware in the middle, and it's very long. If you guys have seen my videos, you already know how I feel about hard use on folders. That's just not what they were designed for. I don't care about the marketing hype. I don't care if zero tolerance says this is built like a tank. It's still a folding knife made out of multiple pieces that are held together by pretty small hardware, guys. Yes, it's a very high quality, very tough knife, but it is still a folder. So, I do not know how this knife in such a long length would react to very hard use. I would say generally the longer length you get and the more leverage you're able to exert on a knife, the quicker that it will fail. All right, generally that is just mechanical engineering 101. But I've had zero issue with this knife ever. The action has always been perfect. The lockup has always been perfect. It's always been smooth as butter. I mean, just zero issues as far as the action goes. And the most satisfying, that blade fires out of there like it is rocket propelled, guys. I mean, God almighty, it's so satisfying. Just the most satisfying flipper I've ever held in my hands. Now, the fit and finish on this. Let's start up here on the blade end. Like I say, we got a blade in S35VN. I've had no issues out of that. I've had no issues with edge retention. The grinds on mine are even. Both the primary grind and the swedge grind on the back. You can see that the grinds are done in a machine finished satin. All right. And the flat, I don't know if you can tell there, the flat, which there's not much of it here showing on the blade, is actually in a stone wash. Then you have the zero tolerance logo very well etched on the front. On the back, you've got a combination of the typical zero tolerance information, the model number, the designer name, Sinkovich Design, Kai USA. All right. You've got your steel and serial number notations on it. And it's just a fantastic knife. As far as the fit and finish on the handle goes, the carbon fiber on mine, it would be hard pressed to find any issue at all. The machining is perfectly done. The quality of the carbon fiber itself is as good as any I have ever seen on any type of knife. I generally find that to be true for zero tolerance and the carbon fiber they make, or not make, but the carbon fiber they use. I do not know who they source it from, but it has always appeared to be a very high quality carbon fiber. No issues on that. You see you got a little bit of a decorative pivot. It's a 5-spoke design, and basically it was all finished in black, and then the high parts, the spokes, were machined off, leaving the black in the recesses. And the spokes have the as machined sort of satin finish on it. It's very attractive. It's actually, I think that it's just enough. If you look at just taking the overall look here, that pivot, now everybody's got different taste, but I think that pivot is just enough when combined with the higher quality look of the carbon fiber and the satin, overall satin, and a little bit of stone wash finish on the blade that is well done. I think that it's really a very attractive package as far as the show side goes. And then the rest of your hardware that shows on the show side, torque screws are in a black finish, so they disappear into the handle material. Now the back, like I say, overall stone wash finish on the titanium. The machining on it as well is perfect. I can find no issue at all with the machining at all on the back. Typically a hot spot on a lot of knives, these corners where the lock bar relief is cut in is also melted. Everything is chamfered, multiple stage chamfering, and it's just beautiful work. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's just a great design. And then the 5-spoke pivot design is repeated on the back. Now I will say something. I'm not personally a big fan of double-sided adjustable pivots, but I've had no issue out of this knife. I've never had to tweak the pivot or anything other than just to play with it, just to see what would happen. And this knife was pretty much perfect straight out of the box. Let's see, I like the way the screw for the lock bar insert is fully recessed, and you can see you've got the chamfering that goes around this radius here that cuts through the recess. But it's very well done. You can see it's not intrusive at all, and it gives a finished look to the way that screw is done. for that lock-in insert. Then you've got the inside of the lock bar. You've got some machining here to relieve it for comfort as far as unlocking. The lock bar tension is moderate. It is not super high, but it is firm. So very well balanced there. And then even the inside of the frame, you can see a small chamfer on the inside, the perimeter of the frame itself for comfort. I mean, this knife is just so very well thought out and so very well executed. It is very comfortable as far as that goes. All right. Now the handle design itself, like I say, this is based on Sinkovich's Coordinal, and it's just a great overall design. It does have some choil here that's not too awful deep, and then some very, very slight sort of finger groove and a second choil at the butt end, and then a bird's beak. It's a very good in a forward grip. It's very good in a reverse grip. It is just a very comfortable overall narrow design. It is long enough for large and extra large hands, but it is not so wide that medium and small hands are uncomfortable grasping it. It's a fantastic handle design. It's not too thick. You know, you're at right at a 1/2 inch on the handle thickness. Now you can see I've got a lanyard on this. It's got a lanyard hole, and I typically do not put lanyards on knives. In fact, this is the only folder out of my collection, about 20 or 25 folders, that has a lanyard on it. And pretty much the only reason is I found this lanyard bead online on a Facebook group, and it is carbon fiber and titanium, and it looks so good with this knife. I mean, no matter how you look at it. So I tied this lanyard up, and I'm no lanyard paracord tying expert or anything, but I watched a YouTube video to learn how to tie these knots, and it turned out decent. So anyway, the last thing I'm going to talk about as far as the handle goes is this pocket clip. You can see this is a small, in scale, this is a small pocket clip. It is short, it is narrow, it is a fold over design, a deep carry design, and it is an excellent pocket clip. I think this is my favorite zero tolerance pocket clip that I've ever seen or used. It not only does this knife, because it's narrow, carry small in your pocket, but I don't know what it is. This pocket clip being this small, it's like there is no pocket clip on this knife when you are holding it in your hand. I've had no problems with it holding in my pocket at all. Zero issues. It's nice and deep, but it does leave a 1/4 inch of the butt end here to, get a grasp on. Then I've got a lanyard on it if I need to, use that to get a hold of it to pull it out of my pocket. But I love this small pocket clip design. This is a design that got me interested in smaller pocket clips, and anytime I see them on another product, as long as they're designed well, I actually prefer that smaller pocket clip. All right, guys. Well, my overall impressions, I'm sure you can already tell, and I've already said this is my favorite zero tolerance knife of all times. I have owned probably 6 different zero tolerance folders, including one of their limited edition models, and currently I have this one in my collection. All the others have gone away. But I've held on to this one, and this is one of those knives that will stay in my collection for the rest of my life. I will never get rid of this knife. I do think, in my opinion, it is the best design that Zero Tolerance has ever produced. Thank you to Sinkovich. And just the overall execution is excellent. And getting that over 4-inch blade length at 4.4 ounces, fantastic. The action is just It's, you know what? I think this action would have been worth $100 more. I'm not joking. $100 more I would have been willing to pay for this knife. I like it that much. Guys, if you can get your hand on this design, do it. It's not a new design. It's been out since like 2015. But it is, seriously, it is a gem within the zero tolerance product lineup. And I just cannot say enough good about it. And I can't say any bad about it. I can't, guys. It is just such a fantastic design. Everything from the design of the blade and the grinds to the design of the handle and the execution, the fit and finish, the overall quality, the choice of materials. Everything about this knife is fantastic. All right, guys. Once again, I thank you for watching one of my videos. As always, God bless all of you, and you have a great day.